Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Leanne. For those of you who are new, welcome. Thank you for clicking this video, and if you are a returner, as always, thank you for rocking with your girl. Okay, it's been a little ride here so far with this little nursing journey. Not little, big nursing journey that we're going on. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you're subscribed, thank you for being subscribed. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to follow my journey. It's very chill over here, very laid back. We're not like everything has to be aesthetic. It's very real life, okay? So a little about me. I am 32 years old. I just completed my first semester of nursing school in December. And I also am a mother to a now 1-year-old. Okay, so as you can see by the title, this video is going to be my, if I'm looking down, it's because I have my notes, but this is gonna be just like my advice for first semester students, especially people who have never been in the nursing field or medical field or anything like that. And also it's going to be how I studied for my classes. So let's just jump right into it because I don't want to make this like a long drawn out video. And if I'm talking low and soft, it's because my son is asleep. And if you know, you know, like if you've been on my channel, the boy will be like loud and he wants to be up here, so I'm trying to hurry up and do this while he's still sleeping. So let's just get to it. Like these tips can kind of like apply to any point in your nursing journey, but I kind of try to make this list specifically for those who are entering into their first semester of nursing school. So my number one tip I have is to give yourself grace, okay? Especially if you are somebody who, like I said, have no medical background, you've never been in a hospital, worked in a you know, nursing home or long-term care facility. Give yourself grace. You cannot go into your nursing program expecting to know every single thing that is discussed or that is talked about. Like, it's something new, so you have to give yourself grace. This is something that I told myself to do, like as I was going into my program. Like, I made it a point to tell myself that you do not have to get A's on every single assignment. You do not have to get A's on every single exam. Now, I don't want to fail an exam, but I don't have to get a perfect score on every single exam because I'm learning. Like, try to use any setback as, you know, a learning opportunity. So give yourself grace, allow yourself to make mistakes, and allow yourself to just like, you know, learn as you go, because that's the whole thing. Like, you're in nursing school to learn. So give yourself grace. Please give yourself grace, okay? So tip number 2 is to try to force yourself to do things that you are uncomfortable doing. Now this specifically applies to like a lab and clinical. I have no medical background at all. Okay, so me going into nursing school, I don't think I said this, but I am in a ADN program, and it is accelerated program. So I'm going for my RN, but I have zero medical, hospital, long-term care facility, no experience, okay? So I made it a point that when I was in lab and had skills check-offs, and when I went to clinical, to try and push myself to do things even though I was nervous or anxious or I was scared. I tried to force myself to do it. So like, for instance, for my first skills check-off, I was so nervous, y'all. I was literally shaking. For my first and for my last one, I was shaking, okay? But for my first skills, I went first because I was so nervous, and I was just like, you know what? I have to do something to like just push myself, you know, to like do it and not let my nerves take over. So I went first and I did great. Like, I did a good job, but I was nervous because I've never done it before. So I kind of made it a point to like force myself to do things out of my comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? I hope that makes sense. And then even in like my clinical setting, when I went to clinical, I forced myself to like take opportunities to do things that, you know, I'm not going to be able to do in class. So like, for instance, we had one of the nurses that was helping us, she was like talking to my instructor about things that she was going to do with another one of my classmates. And I was like, well, you know, can I join? Like, I didn't have that patient, but I still took the opportunity to say, can I join? Even though like a part of me was kind of like, ooh, I just kind of want to sit here and not do nothing and just ride out this little clinical situation. And so it's time to go and just, you know, type my little, write my little, what am I trying to say? Write my little worksheet that we had to do. Like, you know, instead of doing that and just kind of like sitting back, I took the opportunity to push myself to do something that I haven't done before, and it actually ended up like really good. I learned a lot, like, so it was beneficial. So try to push yourself to do things out of your comfort zone. Tip number 3, I feel like everybody says this, but it really is important. If you do not already know your learning style, please figure it out, and figure it out quickly, because nursing goes by so quick. Like, you're on from one exam to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Like, it does not stop. Like, once you start going, it's just gonna go. So try to find a study method that works for you and how you really like learn and retain information. If that's writing your notes by hand, do that. If that's watching videos, do that. If it's a combination of different things, do all of those things. But find what works for you, and find it quick, okay? Because honey, you don't want to wait until you in the middle of your semester and haven't done well on your exams to try to figure out what works for you to learn and retain information, okay? So tip number 4 is take the concept of nursing school or nursing classes being hard out of your mind. I know online, like especially like on TikTok, YouTube videos and stuff, like people will say like, this class was really hard, nursing school was hard, it was a struggle. And I want you to kind of take that out of your mind, because just because somebody else thinks something is really hard or it was a struggle for them doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be hard or a struggle for you. So I don't want you to go into your program or go into your first semester thinking this is going to be so hard when you haven't even like cracked open a book yet and you don't even know like what material you need to know yet, okay? Take that out of your mind. Nothing is hard, nothing is impossible. You can do anything that you set out to do and that you put your mind to. It might take a little longer for you to get it. It might take a different strategy for you to get it, but it's not impossible. It's not hard, okay? Like Nurse D, Professor D, it ain't hard, okay? Take that out of your mind, because if you got that in your mind, you're already setting yourself up for failure. Nothing is hard. You can do anything that you put your mind to, okay? So tip number 5 is to stay organized. I kind of said this a couple steps ago or a couple tips ago, but when I tell you that nursing school is just one thing after another, exam, quiz, lab, check off, clinical, it's just like back to back to back to back to back. So you really need to stay organized. Like, you do not want to go into a lecture and then, you know, someone's like, yeah, we have a check off later today, and you're like, huh? We got to check off? You do not want to be, don't be that person. So make sure that you are always looking at your syllabus, or write it in your calendar. Make sure you're checking your calendar. I write stuff in my calendar, but I don't check it that much. But I am like, when I tell you I'm looking at my syllabus multiple times a week, multiple times a day, I'm always looking at them to see like, okay, this is what we have to do. This is what we're learning. This is what's coming up. This is the check off that's coming up. This is the lab we have. Stay organized and stay on top of your stuff, okay? Please. It's so easy to like get mixed up and get jumbled and get behind. Stay organized, please. Tip number 6 is practice, 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 practice. Practice your skills as much as you can, okay? I don't know about everybody else's program, but for my program, when we learned our skills in lab, it was quick. It was like, watch this video, this is a demonstration, okay. Set out about the world and go learn, go figure it out yourself. Kind of like vibe, like practice. I know I only showed y'all for like 2 seconds, but go practice what I showed y'all with 30 people in the class. Like, you know what I'm saying? Now we did have open lab, but there's only like, I think we only have like 2 open labs a week. So if you're not able to go to those, and you're just kind of like practicing at home by yourself. So yeah, practice as much as you can. If you have open lab times, try to go to open lab. But once you get it down, practice at home. I promise you, the more you practice a skill, the more comfortable you will be when it's time for skills check off. You probably are still going to be nervous because it's just natural, like you're trying to make sure everything is perfect so you don't fail it, and you have your, you know, professor just watching you like, you know, and you don't know what they thinking. So you're still going to be nervous, but practice your skills, okay, as much as you can. Look at your syllabus, figure out what your skills check off is going to be, when it's going to be, when you're going to learn it, and how many weeks and how many days you have until that skills check off, and practice as much as you can. And then my last tip for you know, first semester, and this is really for all semesters, do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to go to tutoring. Do not be afraid to reach out to your professor for them to clarify something for you, for them to go over something with you. Like if you have tutoring on Zoom or anything like that, go to them, okay? Because even if you sit on the Zoom tutor session and you don't say anything, other people are saying stuff, which you might have that same question, or it might be something that you never thought of, or it might be something that they ask a question and you thought you already knew the answer, but the professor clarifies it for you and you're like, oh, that's what that is. So please utilize all of your resources. Do not be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to go to tutoring. Just utilize every resource you have. If you are struggling, if you need help, even if you ain't struggling, if you just need like a little bit of clarification, ask those questions, go to tutoring and get your help, okay? Like I said, yes, I am in an accelerated RN program. I'm going for my ADN. I will be done with nursing school, graduated December 2024. So yes, we're on the countdown, okay? This year is the year. But my first semester, I had 3 classes. I had anatomy and physiology. I had a critical thinking class, which was like a nursing course, and then I had our foundations fundamentals class. So for anatomy, that class was all repetition for me. We did get a book. I did not crack open that book. I ain't gonna hold you. I probably opened that book the very first day I got it and was like, this is too much reading. Thankfully, we did have PowerPoints for every single chapter that we had to go through. So what I would do is I would read my PowerPoints before lecture. Like I wouldn't read them, but I would like kind of go through it real quick, like skim, like this is what we're going over, you know, in lecture. And then we also had homework assignments that we do every week. And I would go through and try to do like some of the homework assignment. They were really long, so I wouldn't do like all of it before lecture. And generally we didn't really get through the whole PowerPoint during lecture anyway, so I would kind of just go through and get as much as I could get done, just to kind of like get a feel for like, okay, this is what we're talking about. While I was in lecture, I would pay attention, okay? Pay attention. Like, I know anatomy can be kind of boring, especially like when your professor just kind of like going through the slides and talking about it, but pay attention, okay? I made sure I paid attention in lecture, and then I would go through and do my homework, and I would use my PowerPoint and the homework to kind of like make my own notes. So if you want to make your notes on Quizlet, I know a lot of people do that, do your Quizlet. If you want to just make flashcards, do flashcards. If you want to just write it down in a notebook, write it in a notebook. But what I would do is I would take the PowerPoint, take the homework, and kind of bounce back and forth between the two to kind of figure out what was like the most important information, or like what was like, you know, the main concept of what we were, you know, going over. Because sometimes the PowerPoint would have like filler information in there that we didn't necessarily need, or like it wouldn't be on an exam or on a quiz. So I kind of like differentiate what was more important, and I would use that to make my notes to study off of. And when I tell y'all that's what I use to study for my exams, that's what I used, okay? And on my first exam, I got a B. On my second exam, I got a C, but it was like one question under a B. So I wasn't mad at it. And then we did have 2 practicals as well for anatomy and physiology. And for that, I'm trying to make sure my baby ain't awake, oh my God. For that, what I would do is I would take our lab worksheets and I would use that to make like flashcards of what each like body system organ or whatever that we were going over, or that would be on a practical. Like I would use that, and we had a practical list that we would get, and I would use the practical list to kind of go through everything. You can also kind of use Quizlet for that too, because you know Quizlet is basically just flashcards, so you can use that too, or whatever system you like to use. But I would literally take our practical list and our lab sheet and just kind of go through every single thing and like, you know, have a picture of it and then what it was, and I would just go through all the time, repetition, repetition, repetition. So for me, it was repetition. Once I kind of got like the broken down sections of stuff, I could put it together and say, okay, well this does this because of that, and this leads into that. That's how my brain works, so it worked for me. Okay, now for my critical thinking class, that is a nursing class, and when I tell y'all, I did not study for that class, because to me it was kind of like common sense. Like once you kind of got like the Tanner's model and the Brenner's and all of that, you could kind of like go through and be like, okay, well this is that, this is that, this is that. So, and luckily I had a professor, like she was super good at breaking stuff down while we were in class, so it was just super easy to understand. So I don't really have study tips for that one, but it is what it is. Okay, now for foundations, it's probably where I have like majority of my study tips. So I'm back to like looking at my little notes, but first, for foundations, read y'all's book. Okay, read the fucking book. I don't care what nobody say, open that book. And when I say read it, I do not mean read every single word. That's not what I'm saying. Once you kind of figure out, like when you're looking at your book, like what sections are like the most important, read those and make notes. Okay, so what I did is I would read my books, and I would go through and I would highlight stuff that I thought was important. I would mark all the boxes that, you know, had important information in it. And I would also go, if it had like basically like summaries in the back of the chapter, I think it's called like maybe like key points. Yeah, so if it had like key points in the book, I would go to the back and I would mark those as well. I would read my book before lecture and I would make notes. So I made like what is it called, like a Word document, and I would literally just put like what the class was, and then I would do like this week's readings, week 2, week 3, week 4, whatever, and I would just type out my notes from what I highlighted in the book. Okay, so I would read / skim the book, highlight it, and then I would make my own notes in a Word document. And then when I went to class, while the professor was teaching, I would either, because sometimes she would give us a document of like to like follow along with her. So if we had a document, I would go in the document and highlight what was important, and then later when I got home, I would go through my own notes and highlight like what was on the document in my notes, so I could just have it already there. The way that I do my notes, it flows from beginning of the chapter to the end, and that's kind of how she did hers too. So sometimes I would just go on my own notes in my Word document and follow along with what she was saying, and the stuff that she like made it a point to be like, this is what, you know, you need to know. I would highlight it, I would bold it, underline all of that, so that when I go back to my notes, I could look and see this is the stuff that was the most important, you know, in this section. Okay, so that's step number 1. Also, when I would be doing my readings, if you do not know something, look it up. Okay, that's just a little tidbit. If you don't know something, then when you're reading it, when you're in class, look it up. Okay, because that word or that phrase or that sentence, whatever, could be the one little missing key puzzle to something that you need to like link a concept together. Okay, so if you don't know something, look it up. That's a little tidbit. Okay, so once I got out of lecture, I would come back home. Like I said, I would highlight. If I needed to go back and highlight, I would do all that. I would make sure I watched YouTube videos. Everybody talks about Simple Nursing. I have his stuff. I would watch Simple Nursing, Level Up RN, and Nurse Sarah. Okay, try to find a video that can like break down what your concept is a little easier for you, because I swear it does help. Okay. Oh, I also used Picmonic. to study from too. If you don't know what Picmonic is, they have like little cartoon videos that go through and break down concepts and diseases and all of that, and they're very short, like they're not long. Like I think maybe the longest video I've seen is probably like maybe 3 minutes, and I might be lying, it probably was shorter than that. So I use Picmonic and Simple Nursing to kind of like help me understand concepts more. Like after I would read it, if I still was struggling with it, I would use those two things to kind of like break it down along with the YouTube videos, and that would really help me kind of like commit it to memory, especially Picmonic, because if you could think about something and it'll you know, have that little image in your mind. Okay, so once it was time for me to study, I would try to speak out loud and break down whatever the concept was in my own words. So I wouldn't even use like a lot of medical terms. Like I would sometimes, but like I wouldn't use like a lot of extensive medical terms. I really would speak to myself like how I would want somebody to talk to me, like in the most simple terms possible is how I would speak out loud and explain a certain concept to myself when I was studying. I also would use active recall with the whiteboard method. So I would write, you know, what a concept was, and then I would write what I already knew about it, and then I would go back and look at information to see, like I would go back from my notes in the book and see what information I missed, what was incorrect, etc., etc., and then I would erase it off the whiteboard and I would start over and do it again to make sure that I actually like had a grasp on what I was learning and that it was correct. My last tip for how I studied was practice questions, but I have to do practice questions with the rationale. And I know people have said that before, but when I tell y'all, it's really like, I learned so much from getting questions wrong, and it'd be like, this is the rationale of why it was right, and I'd be like, that makes complete sense, like for real. So we use I think we have Evolve. Yeah, we use Evolve. So we have practice questions on our Evolve, and then with the Silvestri book that we got, we have a link to go do practice questions on that as well. And both of those provide rationales with your exams or your quizzes that you take on there. So I don't know if you use ATI, Evolve, I don't know what else is out there, but if you can do practice questions with rationales, please do them. Do them as often as you can. We also had to do this thing called EAQs, which is like adaptive quizzing, and those give you rationales as well. So I would do those, I would do the Evolve, I would do Silvestri, just like whatever I was feeling at the moment, but make sure you got rationales, okay? The rationales break stuff down for you so well. Like I'm not lying, there's so many times I took some quizzes, like a practice quiz, and I bombed it. Like when I tell y'all, sometimes I would get like 30%. Like I'm not joking, but I read the rationale and I'm like, okay, that makes total sense. And then sometimes I would go take a quiz or an exam and I'd be like, that was on my practice questions, okay? And I would get it right because I remember the rationale. Like I don't know what it is with me, but like getting stuff wrong is so right for me, okay? You get it wrong and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like practice questions with rationale, okay? That is everything I have for this video. I really hope that it helped you. Even if you take one tip from this video, I hope that it helps in your nursing journey. You really can apply this to any semester. It doesn't have to be just your first semester. But yeah, I hope these tips helped you guys. If you guys have any other tips, please drop them in the comments below, because I'm going in the second semester. I might be doing med-surg, babe, so help a sister out. I'm doing med-surg, anatomy and physiology 2, and dosage calc, so help a sister out. If y'all have any tips to share with me or with anybody else, leave them in the comments. Please give this video a thumbs up. Like I said, I hope that it helps you, and don't forget to subscribe. I will be making more videos because like I said, we're on to semester 2 out of 5, so yeah. Are we almost halfway there? I don't know, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.